Is Alexander Volkanovski the greatest of all time in a featherweight division? Well, recently after his win against Korean Zombie, very impressive win against the veteran like a zombie, people started saying like, hey, Volk is the greatest of all time. There is no doubt. He beat Jose Aldo, he beat Max Holloway, he beat Korean Zombie. He must be the greatest featherweight of all time. However, I would like to, offer a different perspective. Volkanovski is undoubtedly the greatest featherweight currently and right now. But people have been throwing, the GOAT word around just way too often. I believe I'm a big fan of Alexander Volkanovski, I'm a big fan of Jose Aldo, and I'm also a fan of Max Holloway. I'm a fan of greatness in MMA. But I've been following MMA for almost 20 years now. And, the term of GOAT has been used so often that people don't even understand the value, of the greatest of all time. So in order to evaluate who actually was the greatest featherweight in a UFC or maybe even the MMA history, we should look at the more just the current dominance. We need to look at the dominance over a longer period of time and also the names the people defeat. So is Alexander Volkanovski the greatest of all time? Currently, no. But hear me out. He's 2 or 3 fights away of actually cementing his legacy as the greatest featherweight of all time. And hear me out. I will give you a reason. This is not hate. This is just, giving a different perspective on Alexander Volkanovski as a fighter. Because I have to say, I'm very impressed with him. He's a great fighter. UFC should push him more. Like his personality, he's just an average Australian bloke. Everybody loves that, So UFC just should push him a little bit more. But he is not the GOAT at the moment. At the moment, at this very moment, if I was supposed to decide who the GOAT of the featherweight division is, it should be probably Jose Aldo, because, even though he lost some of the fights recently, people forget that he dominated the featherweights for 10 years. 10 years, and we are not talking just fighting nobodies, We are talking about like actual names, Chad Mendes, Cub Swanson, a lot of big names. And to stay dominant for 10 years in any sport, any division, anything is a big feat, And Jose Aldo beat also big names in the sport. So Jose Aldo, if there is a GOAT right now at this moment, it's still Jose Aldo. You gotta, people seem to forget how beast Jose Aldo was. Just look at his fight against Uriah Faber. Those low kicks from depths of hell, when he kicked his leg out to the point it was purple, like you think they will have to amputate his leg. It was wild, So people also seem to forget how great Jose Aldo was. And if the Jose Aldo is not the GOAT, maybe Max Holloway, because look, even though Max Holloway lost to Alexander Volkanovski twice, it doesn't prove the fact that Volk is just GOAT. Because you cannot use the analogy like, oh, someone beat me, so he must be better than me. That way the Kevin McBride would be better than Mike Tyson, because he beat him. Or Matt Hamill will be better than John Jones. We cannot really use that analogy. But when it comes to Max Holloway, you cannot ignore that Max Holloway beat 4 champions, out of which is also one a current champion, Charles freaking Oliveira. That's right, Max Holloway finished him. Max Holloway finished the current lightweight champion, Charles Oliveira. Legend, Frankie Edgar. Then he finished Jose Aldo twice, finished him. Volk took him to decision, but Max Holloway finished him twice. And also Max Holloway finished Anthony Pettis when he was still a big name in industry, was not fighting for PFL or whatever, So you cannot just ignore that. Max Holloway beat some big names. And not only that, after losing to Volkanovski, the first fight, Volk beat him fair and square. The second fight, a lot of people say it was a robbery, a lot of people say it was a razor thin, whatnot. The second fight can go to the both of them. But what did the Max Holloway did? He literally he dominated Brian Ortega in a way that he literally taught him how to block a jab mid-fight. Do you guys remember? They just stopped fighting. They were like, "Hey, this is how you block a jab." That was just insane. And then he broke a record of landing most punches against Kelvin Kattar, and then later defeated Yair Rodriguez. So if you look at the Volkanovski record, he beat Chad Mendes, fair and square. Chad Mendes never won the title, but tough fight, right? Then he got a decision win over Jose Aldo. Max Holloway finished him twice. Actually knocked him out. Then Volk beat Max, fair and square. Good feat, good achievement. Then he struggled. He beat Ortega, but he struggled a little bit and almost got submitted. While Max just dominated him, right? And then he beat Korean Zombie. Those are just 5 notable wins. And I don't believe that with just 5 notable wins, you should be considered the greatest of all time. I believe the Volk is great. And I believe he has that. I'll give you a great example. I believe that Volk is what Canelo is becoming after that first Golovkin fight. Because we all thought that Golovkin beat him, similarly as maybe Max beat him in the second fight, but Canelo was just getting better and better and better and better and better. And I believe the Volk is getting better and better and better and more dominant and more dominant. So that's why I believe that Volkanovski needs 2 or 3 fights to cement his legacy. I believe the Volkanovski in their third fight can beat Max Holloway because he's just getting better and better and his ceiling is raising. But he needs a couple more fights. And there is not a lack of those fights. There is a lot of good contenders. There is freaking Arnold Allen, who has like 8 or 9 fight winning streak in the UFC. And he just finished Dan Hooker in a standing knockout. So there is that, and there is Max Holloway, like that trilogy. We've been wanting the trilogy, but Max Holloway got injured when the injury was announced, when the trilogy was announced. So there is Max Holloway fight, and who else? That Max Holloway, Arnold Allen, and then just throw some random killer into the mix. Maybe Henry freaking Cejudo for a 3 title fight. If Volk beats these 3 names, I believe his legacy of the greatest of all time will be undeniable by anyone. I'm not saying that he is not the greatest of all time right now, but I believe at the moment he's the greatest featherweight right now, but the greatest heavyweight of all time, maybe not yet. And I believe when the time goes on, I believe the Volk still gets better because he's only 33 years old and he should try to fight as much as possible because I believe he can really start clearing the division out. And once he starts lapping the guys like Usman, there is no denying that the Volk has cemented his legacy and people will remember him forever. So what do you guys think? Do you think the Volk already achieved the GOAT status, by his, just 5 notable wins? Or do you think he still needs, those 1 or 2 more fights to prove it? Let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you next time.